Welcome to Primary Source.
I'm John.
And I'm Maya.
If you're fed up with mainstream media, this is your podcast.
If you're tired of official media propaganda, this is your podcast. So help us out and subscribe. Today, our journey into the heart of the world's current crises begins not in today's headlines, but thousands of years ago in ancient Greece with Aristotle.
That's an interesting place to start. I mean, we usually think of him in a dusty philosophy class. What does he have to do with our problems in the 21st century?
Well, in his work Politics, he wasn't just describing governments, he meticulously categorized them into good forms like monarchy, aristocracy, and democracy and their corrupted counterparts, tyranny, oligarchy, and demagoguery. And the key difference was simple. Did the government serve the common good or just its own self-interest?
Okay, that distinction still feels pretty relevant today. But you said there was something even more central to his thinking.
Exactly. And that central pillar was the middle class. Aristotle saw a large, robust middle class as the essential anchor for a stable society. It acts as a vital counterbalance, a buffer preventing the societal extremes of immense wealth on one side and abject poverty on the other.
A buffer against extremes. That makes intuitive sense. So he saw a big gap between rich and poor as a recipe for disaster?
Absolutely. He believed those extremes were the primary drivers of instability, corruption, and ultimately revolution. The truly fascinating part is that this idea, thousands of years old, feels like a direct warning when we look at data today suggesting that the wealthiest 1% of the population holds a hugely disproportionate share of global wealth. We are living in the very extremes he warned us about.
You're suggesting his ancient observations aren't just historical footnotes, but a diagnostic tool for our present. Can you elaborate on why he placed such emphasis on the middle class? What was it about them that he thought was so crucial for preventing society from falling apart?
He argued that the middle class embodies moderation and reason. They are less likely to be corrupted by the arrogance of extreme wealth or driven to desperation by grinding poverty. This creates a sense of shared purpose and common ground, preventing the kind of polarization that fuels conflict. So, what Aristotle offers us is this timeless reminder: a healthy, broad middle class isn't just an economic nice to have, it's the very bedrock of political stability and public trust.
And that brings us squarely to the contemporary reality, where it feels like that bedrock is cracking under the pressure.
That's right. And it's leading to what many are calling a global crisis.
Moving from ancient philosophy to our present day, a really stark symptom of this crisis is the rise of what the analysis calls the working poor. These are people who have jobs, they're doing what they're supposed to do, but they're still in precarious conditions with wages that just aren't enough for a dignified life.
Precisely. This isn't just about unemployment anymore. It's a systemic failure where work itself no longer guarantees stability, and this precarity isn't an accident. The source material argues it's the cumulative result of a series of historical shocks.
Right? It lists events like the Second World War, the fall of the Soviet Union, the 2008 financial crisis, and of course, the recent COVID-19 pandemic. How did those events pile up to create this specific problem?
Well, they collectively exacerbated deep-seated issues like inflation and national debt, creating a compounding effect. What's truly alarming is the stark contrast to the 20th century. After World War II, for example, we saw a massive expansion of the middle class in the West. Now, we're witnessing a serious erosion of that same group. The data is clear. Global wealth inequality remains a huge issue, and factors like automation and the rising cost of living are hollowing out the middle, creating a widening chasm that fuels deep societal discontent.
That data on wealth concentration is really sobering. Beyond the immediate economic impact, how did these historical shocks you mentioned fundamentally alter the system in a way that disproportionately hurt the middle class while benefiting those at the very top?
That's the key question. These shocks often led to policy responses. Think of bank bailouts after 2008 or certain corporate subsidies that tended to stabilize financial markets and protect large asset holders, aka the very wealthy. Meanwhile, the average person was left to deal with stagnant wages, higher costs, and more job insecurity. Each crisis provided an opportunity to rewrite the rules, and it seems the rules were often rewritten to favor capital over labor, accelerating that divide.
So the contemporary crisis is a complex tapestry woven from these historical events and systemic shifts, all manifesting in a vulnerable working poor and a shrinking middle class.
And it doesn't happen in a vacuum. It's often facilitated, or at least not adequately addressed, by the very institutions designed to protect the public interest.
When we talk about this inequality, it's crucial to look at the systems at play. The analysis points a critical finger at our institutions, governmental bodies, financial entities, suggesting they often fail to serve the broader public. Instead, they operate in ways that primarily benefit elite groups, becoming direct causes of corruption and perpetuating the cycle of inequality.
You're absolutely right. And there's another massive force at play here: globalization. While it has had undeniable benefits, our source material highlights its double-edged nature. It's contributed significantly to industrial offshoring and increased job precarity in Western nations, even as it spurs economic growth elsewhere. This creates a complex, uneven global tapestry.
Can you give me an example of that?
Sure, the shift of manufacturing jobs from places like the U.S. Rust Belt to economies in Asia directly illustrates this. That process hollowed out traditional middle-class employment in one region while creating new opportunities in another. It fundamentally reshaped the economic landscape and, in many Western countries, deepened that chasm of inequality we've been talking about.
But Maya, isn't globalization also praised for lifting millions out of poverty in developing nations? How do we reconcile that positive story with the argument that it's simultaneously eroding the middle class in developed economies? Is it a zero-sum game?
That's the tension at the heart of it. It's not necessarily a zero-sum game, but it has been managed in a way that produced winners and losers. The problem is that the losers in developed nations were often told it was inevitable, without adequate policies for retraining, social safety nets, or investments in new industries. The gains weren't shared equitably. This creates a vicious cycle where a lack of opportunity, especially for younger generations, fosters profound disillusionment and erodes trust in the whole system.
Before we go on, we just want to say that if you appreciate this kind of in-depth analysis that you won't find in the mainstream, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel. Liking the video and leaving a comment really helps us fight the algorithm and get this information out to more people.
So, this story of rising inequality and a struggling middle class is deeply intertwined with these institutional failures and the complex forces of globalization. But this systemic breakdown doesn't just impact our wallets, it profoundly affects our trust and our ability to even agree on what's true.
Right? Beyond the economic dimensions, there's another insidious force at play: the information divide. The source material scrutinizes the role of the media and the influence exerted by powerful interest groups, arguing that information is frequently biased or manipulated to serve specific agendas. This doesn't just confuse people, it actively hinders our ability to understand reality and, crucially, it fuels polarization.
Exactly. The analysis criticizes a perceived lack of objectivity, where narratives often favor elite interests at the expense of truth. This manipulation is a key factor contributing to public distrust. Think about the widespread proliferation of misinformation during any major public health crisis or election cycle. A fragmented information landscape prevents collective action and can even push disillusioned people toward more radical views as they lose faith in traditional sources.
That link between information manipulation and potential radicalization is chilling. Can you explain the mechanism there? How does a constant diet of biased information combined with economic insecurity lead someone from disillusionment to potentially embracing extreme ideologies?
It's a psychological cocktail. When people feel the system is rigged against them economically, and then they're told by information sources they trust that the enemy is a specific group, be it immigrants, a political party, or global elites, it provides a simple answer to complex pain. It replaces confusion with certainty and powerlessness with a sense of belonging to a cause. When mainstream systems and media are no longer seen as credible, people become vulnerable to narratives that offer a clear-cut villain and a radical solution.
So, the erosion of trust fueled by media bias creates this dangerous feedback loop, deepening divides and making real solutions seem almost impossible.
Which underscores the urgent need to reestablish a foundation of truth and shared principles if we're ever going to move forward.
After dissecting all these challenges, historical, economic, institutional, we arrive at the most crucial question: what is the path forward?
Well, the analysis strongly emphasizes that solutions must be grounded in robust ethical and rational principles. It's a call to draw inspiration from that historical wisdom we started with, like Aristotle's focus on the common good rather than just chasing quick fixes. And this isn't just theoretical, it's translating into very concrete policy initiatives. And
That's encouraging. What kind of initiatives are we talking about?
we're seeing governments and organizations exploring strategies like progressive taxation, increasing minimum wages, and making significant investments in education and job training. Social safety nets are being strengthened, and there's a growing focus on affordable housing, healthcare, and childcare to alleviate the financial burdens on low and middle income families. For example, some countries in Western Europe are leading the way with these kinds of robust social policies.
It's good to hear about concrete steps, but you also mentioned some more experimental ideas.
Yes, some places are even piloting universal basic income or UBI programs. The idea is to provide a foundational income floor to protect against precarity. While its widespread implementation is still a subject of debate, it shows a willingness to explore new models for economic security in the face of automation and a changing job market.
It seems like we've come full circle. We started with Aristotle's ancient warning about the dangers of a society without a strong middle class, and we've seen how modern crises, from the working poor to institutional failures and media manipulation, confirm his wisdom.
Exactly. The crisis is systemic. It's the result of historical shocks, institutional choices that favor elites, and the turbulent effects of globalization. All of this contributes to the erosion of that vital middle ground.
And it creates that dual challenge we discussed: a crisis of economic equity, but also a crisis of trust and truth. When people can't trust their institutions or even agree on basic facts, it becomes nearly impossible to find the common ground needed for effective solutions.
So, the blueprint for a better future seems to involve both a return to those foundational principles of fairness and the common good, and a proactive embrace of innovative policies. It's a message of hope, reminding us that understanding these complex challenges is the first step toward building something better.
The journey through ancient wisdom and modern predicaments reveals a profound truth. The health of a society is inextricably linked to the well-being of its broad middle. When this crucial segment is undermined by systemic forces and a fragmented information landscape, the very foundations of governance and social cohesion begin to crack. Our capacity to build a more equitable and stable future hinges not just on implementing smart policies, but on rekindling a shared commitment to ethical principles, objective truth, and the common good, a continuous, conscious choice to prevent the extremes that history and philosophy have repeatedly warned us about.
Remember that primary source is the resistance. Be on our side.